So in this video, what you can expect here is you're going to be seeing some crazy customs done onto a Royal Enfield 350. Some things that we thought were impossible have managed to come onto this particular bike. Also, we're going to go ahead and get into the details of how much it will cost to get these modifications done onto a Royal Enfield. Whether it's aesthetic, whether it's performance, whether it's the functional mods of the bike. And today I have here with me Supreeth, who also owns a Royal Enfield, but this Royal Enfield comes with a slight different twist to it because we lovingly call it Frankenstein, and the reason being, you would hear it in the next segment. So I want to know a little bit more about your bike right now. So let's get into Frankenstein. Why do we call it Frankenstein?
Frankenstein, I think Viru and Vivek named it Frankenstein.
Okay.
With all the mods it has, it is Royal Enfield. The heart and soul is a Royal Enfield.
It's still a Royal Enfield.
It's still a Royal Enfield, but it's got a combination of a couple of other Royal Enfield bikes parts put together.
Okay.
It's an assembly of a lot of other bits and pieces of a couple of other Royal Enfield bike parts in it.
So Supreeth, how long have you owned the bike and how many kilometers have you clocked on it?
I have them from 2016.
Okay.
So it was in 350cc earlier, back then stock. Then I have modified the engine, which is a 535 right now.
Okay.
So the earlier engine did 110,000 kilometers. Smooth, never had an issue with it, or the engine didn't seize up or anything. We just had to take it off to do the modification. And the present engine has done around 50 odd thousand kilometers.
Right.
Already. Yeah.
So we're going to get into the most interesting part of his bike right now. So Supreeth, tell me about the mods that you have done on your bike.
Okay, to start, let's take it from the front.
All right.
Right. The front suspension from a Himalayan with the T-stem and the bearings to accommodate the T-stem to the classic frame had to be modified. Then the front rim is again from the Himalayan, which is 21 inches.
Okay.
And then moving a little up ahead, the headlight is from an Interceptor.
All right.
Right. And speedometer is from Thunderbird.
Right. I remember because you stole my speedometer.
Yeah, just to check if it works fine. And then I bought another one. Then the handlebar, I've got they generally say it to be a RD handle.
Okay.
The taller one.
Right.
So I have that handle. Then after the handle, I have a aftermarket windshield to it. I've changed a couple of it. Now the one I have, it's not a branded one.
Okay.
Just what I got on the JC Road, which served the purpose for me.
Right.
Before that, I had carbon racing windshields.
Yeah, I have that still with me because I think I just wanted to test it on my bike, and I think you just gave it to me, but at that given point of time, while we just swapped the entire windshield.
Correct.
Quite a good one.
Right. So, and that adding on to the handlebars, I have mirrors from Avenger. So this is one thing which comes from another brand, Bajaj Avengers. Basically because it gives a better view. It's it's a squared mirror. It gives you a clear vision, unlike the stock ones in Royal Enfield, which tends to vibrate a lot, and you get a blur. This also vibrates, but yeah, it's got a little better view on the rear. And then coming a little behind, then we got the engine.
Okay.
Which used to be a 350 is now a 535.
Okay.
With the change in the bore, the clutch assemblies, and then the the piston. And yeah, that's pretty much the LH and RH cover remains the same. It's got a bigger head to accommodate the bigger size of the piston. Okay. Then the only thing which remains is the LH and RH cover, which is from the stock engine. Then the seat I have had couple of iterations. This is the third kind of seat I have had on my bike. So earlier, this basically was made with a single piece, like the
Okay.
scrambler. I wanted a
Okay.
single seat setup. So back then I used to ride alone and I was still okay with it.
Okay.
With the seat I had. But then the cushion and the distance I started doing with that seat, I felt it was a little uncomfortable. Then I had to change the cushions. So that was the second iteration, just basically changing the foam.
Uh-huh.
And then the third iteration was to ride with a pillion,
Okay.
to make the seat more comfortable for the pillion rider. So that had to be made. And now, surprisingly, after so many years or so many months or years, I've come to a seat where it is both comfortable for the rider as well as the pillion. Better than the two iterations I had
Okay.
before. And then I have a suspension, which is the rear suspension, which is from an Interceptor.
Okay.
And that's pretty much on the ergonomics and the engine of it. And there is a lot of different paint schemes I went through. I had a Nardo grey to the tank earlier.
Okay.
I have a green, a military kind of army green kind of a color right now. And I changed even the rims, which were black. I've changed it to a matte golden rims. And this basically, I got this golden rim idea because of Nishil. He was sharing a couple of rims in the group, putting his Honda on the rim and all that. That's when I started the logo, I mean the Honda sticker on the rim. Right? That's when I started saying, okay, what can I do for my rims? That's when I came up with this thing that, okay, I can turn it gold. So that's where that comes from. And I missed one more thing. Again, on the ergonomics, the foot pegs and the brake lever and the gear levers on my bike are not stock.
Okay.
I mean, the position of it is not stock how it comes in the classic bikes.
Right.
So I've shifted it a little behind. This was basically a concept from the Himalayan.
Okay.
With the position, I had the handle and my seating position. I was not very comfortable riding with the stock setup.
Right. So it becomes a bit difficult for you to saddle.
Saddle, yes, that's the right thing. One major important thing why was to saddle.
Okay.
You have to stand and ride. It is very comfortable right now. I get that right standing posture, and then you don't have to kind of lean too much to the handle. So that's one thing. And with shifting of this, I had to cut short the brake lever, which is cut short by around 15 to 20 mm. To put it a little behind. And then the gear lever is from an Interceptor. A short lever, single lever. Though the classic have the conventional one with two levers, shift back and then shift down and up. So I have this single setup. And that's pretty much on the back.
Supreeth, tell me, what part of your bike is actually bone stock?
The tank and the chassis, right? The tank is still the same. It's the same tank which came with the bike. Of course, the paint has changed and the chassis. Never cut and welded anything to it. And I would suggest, please don't do it. Any mod you want to add on things, eliminate things which are not
necessary.
Which are not necessary to basically to reduce weight on things. But never cut anything or weld anything to the chassis direct. I would suggest never do that.
Super. So those are some quite interesting modifications that you've done on your bike here, Supreeth. But when you think about modifications, I understand that it is quite sacred as well as very personalizing your entire bike. The biggest question the bigger question here is, why would one move into modifying their bikes? What are the broad categories or the reasons for modifying your bike?
See, generally I cannot speak for someone else who wants to modify his bike. It's really up to them what they want to do and why they want to do it. Doing any mods like doing it for their riding purpose or just to have a beautiful bike, something like that. But talking about what or why I did it, why I can tell you that I wanted my bike to do a couple of things which I could not do in the stock setup. The main reason being the classics were heavy. Right, and then I am more of I ride more on the trails. Right. Do a couple of off-roading stretches.
Okay.
Jump here and there and do all that. The stock bike limits me doing all this.
All right.
So the mods here, like raising up the suspension, coming up with a different setup, is to increase the height.
All right.
You get a better ground clearance, right? So that is one thing. And then the ergonomics, the riding posture, you sit. Now the present setup gives me a very comfortable ride posture. I don't say the Classic had a bad setup as in, but yeah, the reach to the handle was a little stretched, and doing the long distances were not very comfortable on the stock setup. But yeah, these were one of the few reasons why I wanted to do it. And then again, another thing is I wanted my bike to look different.
All right.
Different in the crowd.
Okay. You wanted to stand out.
Stand out, yes, of course.
So why not a different bike altogether, Supreeth?
Yeah, I would not suggest anyone else like this. If someone comes to me and says that I want to modify my bike, I would ask why.
Okay.
I would want to know the reason why.
So you want to know the quotient of why they want to go ahead and modify their bike.
If someone says, say like if I ask you, you say that you have a Thunderbird and you say, Macha, I want to do a touring kind of setup on my bike, I would suggest go for a new bike. 390 Adventure is there, there's the new Himalayan, there are a couple of other bikes, big bikes are there, the mid-segment bikes are there. You go for it. But why I did it? Because there was this mod kida in me that I wanted to do this. It's not that I didn't want to go for another bike. I actually considered a 390 Adventure once. I even happened to go to the showroom, make the booking advance and all that. But I ended up doing certain mods to my bike, and keeping in mind, I wanted to ride my bike from here to Leh.
Okay.
And do the entire stretch in Leh with no hassle.
Okay.
It's more of a trail kind of a ride there. You do kind of a couple of off-roads and all this. So I wanted my bike to perform well there.
All right.
Yeah, so that's one of the things why I got into modification, to add a little personal touch to the bike, how I want it to look, and get the feel out of it.
Would you say it's more like an emotional connect that you have with this bike, that you don't want to part ways with it, that you want to make it perform in a very different way, or perform to all the needs that other bikes are providing?
See, I would say it's not performing like the 390 if you're comparing it.
Right.
No, the engine performance is not as good as the 390 Adventure gives.
Right.
It has its limitation.
Right.
350 to 535, that's the max, or 500 or 535, that's the max I can do with this engine.
Okay.
And it is giving me a decent amount of power output and torque. It's fairly increased. It does get out of places, gives me a good feedback from the engine, yes.
Now, I want to know, Supreeth, we're going to be discussing a bit more in detail about the mods and the cost around modifying Frankenstein. So we're going to go ahead and start with the smallest segments. All right. So I want you to go ahead and briefly describe what are the mods that you have managed to go ahead and pull off on Frankenstein, and the pricing that comes along with it. So let's start with the aesthetic mods. Aesthetic mods are like your paints, your wraps, and the parts that you have included on Frankenstein.
Aesthetic, first comes the tank, because that's the only thing which is mere metal in the bike right now.
Right.
And to add with the side two boxes.
Okay.
There's an RH box and an LH box. There also I've done a small modification. I've just cut down the size of the box.
Okay.
Just to reduce weight. Right. So the tank has got a paint scheme. Mm-hmm. That's one thing which I've done, and which will cost you, depending on the paint you select. You go with a normal black or a silver color kind of a finish. You'll end up shelling at around 3 to 4K.
Okay.
With the wraps on it, or the stickering on it, or the things like that. But the tank I have is of a pretty good paint scheme. It's a little costlier paint which is there, which is generally used for the off-road cars.
Okay.
Right. So my tank costed me to paint around 5.5K.
Okay.
right? And then the boxes are generally black, should cost you 1,000-2,000 rupees both put together.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the aesthetics, again, I would consider the windshield in my bike again as an aesthetic thing, because I've changed a couple of it, even for the look also. I wasn't very much happy with the Carbon Racing's windshield I had, though it was good in certain things, but I could not do off-road. It was blocking my vision.
Okay.
So that's one thing, and then yeah, that's pretty much on the aesthetics here.
So let's move on to the next segment. That would be your performance mods. Performance, I'm looking at how much you spent on your engine, if you have added any additional performance parts like an air filter or your fuel X or your exhaust.
Okay, so the engine, the entire engine setup, which is of 535 now, which that costed me around 60k. 60k.
Right.
Straight away, with all the clutch assemblies, the shaft, the bore, the piston, bigger head, and the iridium spark plugs.
Right.
All put together costed me 60, and then the carburetor is from 500, which is around 3 to 5k.
Okay.
Right. And then there is a performance air filter which is 5k from K&N.
Okay.
Okay. And then yeah, that's pretty much for the engine.
And what about the exhaust?
Yeah, exhaust, it's from Moto Wing.
Okay.
I got it seconds, used one. So that is the new one should cost around 6k. I got it for around 3.5k.
So for those of you who don't know, his bike is quite loud.
Quite loud?
It's quite loud, I would say, because
quite loud.
You can literally hear his bike from literally a kilometer away. And one of the major highlights while we were in Rider Mania in 2022 was that his bike was literally revving throughout the entire 3 days.
Hey, it outrun all those people who were doing it. We were in the center, remember?
Yeah, so there was a very good story behind that. So we had a lot of these guys who were like trying to go ahead and rev their bikes to make it sound very loud. And well, I was sitting behind Supreeth and I just tapped him on his back and I told him, you know what, just go ahead, let it loose. And once Supreeth started revving his bike, literally you can hear all of the bikes just went quiet and they were just looking at his bike.
Yeah, that happened. It was. I was not ready to do it. You forced me into it.
Guilty as charged. So coming back, let's go ahead and talk about your comfort mods, the ergonomics on the seats. Let's go ahead and talk about the suspensions. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about the backrest, what you have created, what you have actually created. Let's go ahead and talk more about that and what did it cost you.
Okay, talking about the comfort, the first thing for me is the seat.
Okay.
The latest or the recent most or iteration of the seat costed me around 2k.
Okay.
Right, and it's got the pillion has got a flat, like the other touring segment bikes, and it's got a better what do you call that, foam cushion added to it. And then the rider part, I've got a little dip in it.
Okay.
Okay. Just like a bucket
seat?
feel. Yeah, kind of a bucket seat. Not very deep, but yeah, it's got a little dip in it so that I'm not kind of moving out of my position when I'm on the seat. This I had in the earlier seats. That I used to notice that I've gone behind or I've come too much up ahead. So that used to happen, but with this seat, it doesn't happen, and it cost me around 2k. And then the handlebar, which again helps in a lot of ways. Like it gives you a better sitting posture. The handle costed me $700.
Okay.
And the suspension. If I have to tell about the suspension, I can tell you about the whole setup in the front.
Right.
Right. So the front suspension, T-stems, the front wheel with the tire, and the speedometer and the headlight costs me around 18k.
Okay.
18k. And then the rear suspension, I swapped it from Ashwin.
Okay.
Ashwin had this Interceptor suspension on his Machismo.
Okay.
So I gave him my stock classic suspension and I swapped the Interceptor suspension. But I can tell you the price, what you'll get a used suspension for, well within 3k.
All right.
You get a used suspension, used Interceptor suspension.
Reliable?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They are reliable. Yes, they are good. You also have it on your bike.
Yeah,
What
I
do
do.
you say? What do you say on that?
Kind of hard.
Kind of hard for you? Oh, okay. But yeah, for me it's I can not completely agree with what you say, but yeah, on a solo ride you feel it's little bumpy on the rear, but with a pillion it's good.
I think I add up to both the rider and the pillion at the same time because of my weight. But
okay.
so I think that's the reason I feel that it's a little bit more hard on the harder end. I feel that the suspension is a bit stiff for me as well. But
then again, on the kind of the cosmetic things I've done on the bike, I've removed the rear mudguard.
Okay.
The front mudguard obviously goes because the entire setup is new. The rear setup is gone, and I have a tail setup from a Yamaha FZ.
okay, second part, which is not from
Royal Enfield. This is the second part in the bike which is not from Royal Enfield. Then I have saddle stays which is from the Himalayans.
Okay.
So I had to alter it a little, cut and bend a little to mount to my bike to suit to the frame I have. And yeah, all this put together, the engine costed me around 60. The front suspension setup with the speedometer and the headlight will cost you around 18k.
Okay.
Then all the other few fabrication things like you need. I have a small top rack. Though I don't use a top box, I just have it.
And it's a BMW top rack.
Oh yeah, it's
from a GS.
The plate is from a GS. Yes.
Right.
Okay, the third part. From
the third part.
Different bike brand. So yeah, all kind of put together, I have roughly ended up spending more than 1 lakh.
More than 1 lakh.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to explain about the switches that you have mounted on the on the top of your handlebar. I want to know, where did you get those switches? What are those switches? And they're quite interesting switches as well, because the last time you'd see switches like that were on an airplane. So I want to know, what exactly are those, and what are how did you manage to go ahead and get them onto the bike?
That's the thing you rightly mentioned. You see those switches, the toggle switches.
Yep.
From you generally they use it in the fighter jets, aircrafts, where you have this small lid. You turn it on and then switch it off, and you even see this in the Fast and Furious series where they turn on the NOS. So it's the concept came from these kind of things. Okay. I always wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
A fighter jet pilot. Okay. So but couldn't. I ended up settling down with a bike pilot right now. Okay. So this basically gives me a feel of a cockpit. Right. I've got 3 switches. One is for the hazard light assembly I have with the blinkers. Then the other 2 are for the additional lights I have. The aux lights. The aux lights I have on my bike. And yeah, that's pretty much why I got that, to get a feel of a fighter jet cockpit. So no wonder every time you start, or when we start going out for a ride, that's the front wheel is always launching in the air before it starts moving, right? Ram, you're not supposed to mention that, man. My mom's going to be hearing it. I want you to go ahead and explain one most important thing. We still haven't gone to the better reason why you moved into these particular mods in the first place. So, by the pricing there, would you suggest or recommend anybody modifying their bike? See, as I again mentioned the same thing, that it's up to you. Okay. You want to do it with the bike you have, with the Royal Enfield or any bike for that matter. You have what you want to do with it, why you want to do with it. Or you still have another bike in your garage which serves the same purpose. So, any recommendations or words of wisdom that you would have for others in the event that they want to modify their bike? Yes, do it. Just don't, Google down or YouTube on many things and make it a raita. Mix in too many things and spoil the whole thing. Just do things which is not affecting the ride. You want to have a good, safe ride. Certain modifications may not give you this. Certain modifications are just for the show. Right. Just do it for the aesthetics part. Aesthetic part of it. But certain things when you do, like how I did, was more for the performance. Yep. Not only on the speed, for the speed performance, but for multiple things like do off-road and all that. Right. So yeah, there are bikes in the market which are available, giving you all this what you can. Just again, I'm mentioning the same bikes, that is 390 Adventure and even the 450 Himalayan or the old 411.
Okay.
These bikes are doing the same what my bike can do right now.
Right. And where can we get these mods done?
Yeah, so you can get in touch with me, C3 Customs. You can get in touch with me, guys, anytime. Come up with your own touch and feel for it. So let's figure it out and sketch what you want to do it.
So if you're listening, you can reach out to Supreeth on C3 Customs. So Supreeth is going to be designing, and he's going to be also advising you on the possible mods that can be done on a Royal Enfield. And for all of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, like, share and subscribe to Open Adventures, and thank you once again.
Thank you.